The Oscar-nominated movie Moneyball shows how a baseball executive built a winning team using data analysis instead of scouts. The screenplay was based on author Michael Lewis's bestseller. His books have sold more than, get this, 9 million copies in the United States alone. 3 of them became successful movies, including The Big Short and The Blind Side. Lewis takes on the world of psychology in his new book, The Undoing Project, A Friendship That Changed Our Minds. It follows the intense collaboration between 2 Israeli psychologists. Michael Lewis is with us now. Welcome.
Thanks for having me back.
So you were saying that you wrote this book.
I saw this book and I had a Pavlovian response to start writing because this is where I drank my coffee out of as I was writing this book every day. Yes, absolutely. I had a habit of stealing mugs from talk shows for a long time, and so that's what I drink.
So we're inspiring.
So we are.
I like that.
All right. So tell me where you found this idea and why it was so intriguing.
It grew out of Moneyball. I mean, that I'd written this book about this team that had thrived because baseball players were misjudged by their market. And it was a book about how people get misjudged by markets and how their value is hard to perceive. And the misjudgment was coming from people trusting their gut instincts, ex-baseball experts, and they couldn't see always who a good baseball player was and who wasn't in the same way you could with statistics. I never really got to the question, why do people misjudge other people? And I found in a review of Moneyball, 2 scholars, Cass Sunstein and Dick Thaler, wrote, Mr. Lewis doesn't seem to understand that these 2 Israeli psychologists who did a kind of study of the way the human mind functions when it's making judgments on uncertainty, and they described all the reasons baseball players are misvalued.
And what's great about this, it's a story of friendship.
Yes, it's more than friendship. It's love.
It's love. You're right that they connected with each other. They're heterosexual men, but
very heterosexual.
But you said they connected with each other more deeply than anyone else. Even their wives noticed. They finished each other's sentences and they competed with each other. There was a deep love between the 2 of them.
So their names are Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And Danny said to me once, when he was describing his feelings for Amos, he said, "You're in love with women and all that. But with Amos, I was rapt." And he said, and he liked me more than I liked him. And, they were, and I think the dynamics of the relationship were so interesting because they were with each other, unlike who they were with anybody else. So in a room together alone, they became different people. And so the relation, they brought things out of each other. And the work they did together was just so much better than anything they did separately. And so that you saw this, I mean, almost alchemical, like merging of minds.
But they were so different too, Michael.
Oh, everybody who knew them thought there's no way they would get along.
I love what they did, because psychologists, go ahead.
But I want you to finish that, because I think that's fascinating.
Well, on the surface, there was a Felix and Oscar thing going on. Danny like a total slob, and Amos was a neat Nick, and I mean, you walked into Amos Tversky's office, and there was nothing but a pencil on a desk. And if he was working, 1 sheet of paper, and nothing on the walls, nothing. Danny's office was such chaos that his secretary tied his scissors to his desk so he wouldn't lose them. But the big thing was, Amos was the most self-certain person anybody knew. He was totally sure of his own judgments. And he was often right to be sure. I mean, someone designed a 1-line intelligence test, and it was, the longer it takes you to figure out that Amos Tversky is smarter than you, the stupider you are. And Danny was this welter of doubt. He's this Holocaust kid. He spent his childhood being chased by Nazis across France, barely survives. It's like watching an animal try to swallow itself whole, starting with its tail. Every time every time he has an idea, he becomes unsure of the idea.
And for those not familiar with their work, I mean, we've heard the phrase, trust your gut. And you give so many examples about how our stereotypes lead us to actually make mistakes by trusting our gut or misperceptions. And instead, they, of course, relied more on science. But a good example would be what in this example?
Well, sports is a really good example. Let's take one example I love is the basketball player Jeremy Lin, who became a star for the New York Knicks, but no one drafted him. None of the NBA teams drafted him. Nobody saw that this was.
And he was a big high school star in California.
And no college teams wanted him either, coming out of high school. And the rap on him, if you talk to general managers in basketball, was always he's not athletic. And then the minute, of course, he gets a chance, he's incredibly athletic. And when they start to actually later measure athleticism by like putting sensors on him and seeing how fast his first 2 steps are and how quickly he comes off the ground when he jumps, he is off the charts athletic. So why is it when people are just looking at him and making a judgment, Basketball experts can't see the athleticism, and and Jeremy said this, and also the general manager said this, is because he was Asian, because they hadn't seen it before. And Danny Amos's work, one of the things they talk about is the power of the way the mind thinks in stereotypes.
Yeah.
That it's actually, we're wired to think in stereotypes. We're wired to have some
make
model.
assumptions.
We have some model in our mind of what a president looks like,
Right.
or what a basketball player looks like, or what an investment advisor looks like, and we match. And so it's one of the reasons markets misvalue people. Is that people are always are thinking, does it look right? And often the person who's best for the job doesn't look right for the job.
And why so many people make so many mistakes about people, so you find out that, they've been told, no, you'll never do this so many times.
I think that's right. I think it's that, and actually one of the lessons I pulled out of my exposure to Danny Amos was when I'm looking for someone for a job, I find someone who's, like if I'm looking for a doctor.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't look right as a doctor, they're almost certainly a great doctor. Because to get to the position, if you don't look the part, is so much harder.
Yeah.
I like him to look the part, though, Michael.
You all look like television talk show hosts. I'm sure you're good too, but you could have got here just on your looks, and that's a problem.
Well, the two of them.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. I like you talked too about the relationship, because Amos is no longer with us. He died back in
1996.
96. But you said you were reluctant to approach Danny to write this book, that you were nervous. I can't imagine you being nervous to pick up the phone to talk about this.
Well, so this is a psychologist who won a Nobel Prize in economics. I mean, with like a flick of the wrist. He's not even an economist, but just because of the way their work changed economics. And who everything that comes out of his mouth is really, really interesting. And I didn't think he would take an interest in me or the idea of me writing a book about
but
it.
he did.
And so, well, it took a while. It took a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
So
been
you
at
just
this.
kept going back and back and back and saying,
We'd go on long walks together, and he'd tell me what actually entranced me about the thing was their ideas were really interesting, and the science was really interesting. The relationship was
the crux of the book, too.
And the two characters, the two best characters I've ever had as a writer, bar none.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. When you're, a lot of times I feel as a writer I've been the B student writing about other B students, and I can kind of get my mind around my subjects. Here I was the B student trying to write about A students, and it was like I felt like a gnat trying to hug two elephants.
Do you make decisions better now,
Couldn't get my
Michael?
arms around them.
Do you make decisions better now? What should we know about making better and good decisions?
Well, time will tell if I make decisions better. And I have these two guys in my head when I'm making decisions, which is the characters that sort of imprinted themselves on me. But I think the big thing is, one of their big lessons is we try to make the world feel like a more certain place than it actually is. Our mind is always doing that. We think we should have saw Trump coming. We think we're dumb for not seeing that he was going to be elected. A lot of things we're dumb that we didn't know the stock market was going to go up. A lot of this is kind of unknowable or matters of probability.
Gail knew. She did. She
Except
did
for
know.
Gail, who knows everything. But in my case, preserving that sense of uncertainty while you're making decisions is really, really important, rather than needing total conviction.
Michael, thank you. It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to have you.
Yeah.